Have you ever wondered how dogs once feared, even hunted as wild predators, became the most beloved companions in human history? Ever thought about how many dogs exist today? From what I have read that there are over 930 million dogs live on Earth. That's more than double the population of the United States. They sleep in our beds. They wait at our doors. They run into burning buildings to save us. They even sense our pain before we speak it. But it wasn't always this way. Thousands of years ago, these animals were snarling threats, lurking at the edges of human camps, stealing food and endangering children. We feared them. They feared us. So, what changed? How did a creature we once saw as dangerous become our guardian, our emotional healer, our family? This isn't just a story about pets. It's a story of survival, betrayal, kindness, and love. Of wolves who dared to get close, and of humans who slowly opened their hearts. Because dogs didn't just become our best friends, they earned it, step by step, generation by generation. Through freezing winters, ancient hunts, and even the chaos of war zones. This is the story of the underdog, literally, and it's one of the most powerful alliances in the history of life on Earth. We'll journey from ancient burial rituals, to hidden roles dogs still play in modern society, to how humans literally rewired dog DNA just by choosing the friendliest face. By the end of this video, you won't just see dogs as cute companions. You'll see them as warriors, lifesavers, emotional anchors, architects of civilization. Let's uncover the untold journey of how dogs overcame fear, hate, and even death to become the one animal we trust with our homes, our children, and sometimes our very lives. Let's rewind 30,000 years to the first time a human looked into the eyes of a wolf and didn't feel fear, but curiosity. Imagine this, a small group of humans huddled by a crackling fire in the Ice Age wilderness. The wind howls, meat crackles on the fire, and from beyond the tree line, glowing eyes watch. Wolves, at first they're just shadows in the dark, snarling threats. They steal scraps, they frighten children, they're hunted and feared. But then some begin to linger, quietly, patiently. Not all wolves are alike. Some are bolder, some friendlier. These are the ones that get closer. They aren't just looking for food, they're learning us, studying us. Research suggests something shocking. It wasn't humans who tamed wolves, it was wolves who tamed themselves. They began to self-domesticate, evolving over generations to favor calmness over aggression, curiosity over fear. The reward? Food, safety, shelter. And in return, they offered something unexpected: protection, an early warning system, even companionship. This was not a one-time event. It happened over millennia. From Russia to Alaska, from Europe to East Asia, wolves began a quiet transformation. They became dogs. But what did humans see in them? Why did we let them in? The answer isn't just survival, it's something deeper. Before humans developed agriculture or cities, before we carved gods into stone, there were dogs. Archaeological sites dating back 14,000 years show dogs buried alongside humans. In Bonn Oberkassel, Germany, a dog was buried with a man and a woman. Not discarded, not eaten, honored. The dog had survived multiple illnesses. Its owners nursed it back to health. This wasn't just utility, this was love. Even before we fully understood language, dogs and humans had created their own communication. A tilt of the head, a soft whine, a shared glance. We didn't need words, we had something better: trust. But history isn't all warmth. There were dark chapters too, when humans misunderstood dogs, took them for granted, or caused them pain. Here are some stories that remind us of what dogs gave, even when we gave them nothing in return. Victor the Carpenter. A bitter man who hated dogs. He chased them, cursed them. But years earlier, his only companion, Rex, a German shepherd, died protecting him in a break-in. That pain hardened his heart, until one winter night, a shivering mud in a ditch. He almost walked past, but memory stopped him. He brought the dog home. named him Luca. Months later, a fire breaks out. Victor is trapped. Luca goes in, saves him, loses a leg in the process. From that day on, Victor changed. He built shelters for strays, fed them, cried into Luca's fur. When Victor died, Luca was at his side. His tombstone reads, "He once hated dogs, one saved his soul." Sometimes you don't understand the value of love until it's gone. As the bond deepened, something extraordinary began to unfold. Dogs stopped being just guardians and hunters. They became companions. They began to live not just with us, but for us. By the Middle Ages, dogs were embedded in every part of human life. Knights rode into battle with dogs by their side. Farmers relied on them to protect their livestock. And noble families saw dogs as symbols of status and affection. But even more quietly, dogs began shaping human emotion. We began to care for them in a way we hadn't before. They weren't just tools, they were family. And they stayed loyal, even when we didn't deserve it. Let me tell you another story. There was a woman named Carla in a bustling city, single, overworked, and emotionally drained. Her only constant was a golden retriever named Sunny, gifted to her by her late father. Sunny was everything: alarm clock, companion, therapist. But life got hard. Bills piled up, her career was on the line. And Sunny, he became background noise. One day after a long meeting, Carla came home to find Sunny had chewed through her important documents. She screamed. She hit him. The next morning, she gave him to a shelter. Weeks passed, then months. One night, she broke down in tears, alone in her apartment, and remembered something. Sunny had always chewed when storms approached. He was trying to warn her of danger. She rushed to the shelter, but Sunny had already been adopted. Carla never saw him again. She now volunteers at that same shelter every weekend, helping dogs find homes, hoping in some way to make amends. We don't always realize the value of loyalty until it's gone. But how do dogs know us so well? It's not magic, it's evolution and science. Studies show that dogs can read human emotions better than almost any other species. They follow our gaze, react to our tone, and even mirror our stress levels. Their brains have adapted over thousands of years to respond to our happiness and our sadness. A 2015 study revealed that when a dog stares into a human's eyes, both the dog and the human release oxytocin, the same hormone that bonds a mother to her child. Dogs are literally biologically designed to love us, and they taught us to love more deeply in return. And when disaster strikes, dogs don't run away, they run in. From 9/11 search and rescue dogs, who worked tirelessly through toxic rubble, to therapy dogs that comforted survivors after school shootings, to dogs in war zones who disarmed bombs and calmed frightened soldiers. Their stories are endless. And yet, many go untold. Like Luca, a military dog who lost her leg in Afghanistan after saving countless lives. Or Frida, the Mexican rescue dog who found survivors in the aftermath of devastating earthquakes. Or Kabang, a street dog from the Philippines who threw herself in front of a motorcycle to save 2 children and lost her snout. They didn't do it for glory. They did it because that's who they are. Across cultures, dogs are more than just animals. They are symbols, heroes, messengers. In Japan, dogs symbolize loyalty, thanks to Hachiko, the famous story. You may have heard about this. In 1920s Tokyo, a professor named Hidesaburo Ueno adopted an Akita dog named Hachiko. Every day, Hachiko would walk with the professor to the train station and wait for him to return. One day, the professor died unexpectedly at work. But Hachiko didn't know that. For the next 9 years, he returned to the station every single day at the same time, waiting. At first, people ignored him. They thought he was just a stray. But as time passed, commuters began to recognize his devotion. Eventually, Hachiko became a national symbol of loyalty. A bronze statue now stands at Shibuya Station in his honor. In Native American traditions, they were seen as spiritual guides. In Hindu beliefs, dogs guard the doors of the afterlife. And in ancient Persia, harming a dog was considered a serious moral crime. But in some parts of the world, DGs still face cruelty in dog meat trade markets, in illegal fighting rings. or simply in homes where they're seen as objects, not beings. Yet time and time again, they forgive. And when people finally see what they missed, that's when transformation begins. Today, in hospitals, prisons, and homes, dogs are changing lives. Autistic children who never spoke are now speaking to their service dogs. Veterans with PTSD find peace through canine companions. Terminally ill patients smile, sometimes for the first time in weeks, when a therapy dog enters the room. Dogs don't just sense our emotions, they absorb them. And in doing so, they help us heal. Dogs reflect the best parts of us: our capacity for love, our ability to forgive, our instinct to protect those we care about. They don't care how much money we make, how we look, or what mistakes we've made. They just want to be by our side. If more of us could live like dogs, love without judgment, protect without hesitation, forgive without condition, maybe the world would be a kinder place, because dogs didn't just evolve beside us. They elevated us. They saw our worst and stayed. They gave their best and asked for so little in return. They waited in silence. They ran into danger. They died in our arms, and still, they wag their tails. They are more than friends. They are hope with four legs. They are reminders of what we can be at our best. As we look into the eyes of a dog, we see more than just an animal. We see history, we see sacrifice, we see a partnership that spans millennia. But the question remains, what have we given them in return? For all their loyalty, love, and sacrifice, dogs have been betrayed. Throughout history, humans have turned against them, sometimes in ways too cruel to fathom. In wars, dogs were treated as expendable tools, trained to find mines, carry supplies, or even sacrifice themselves for military strategy. After battles, many were abandoned on the battlefield, left to starve, or worse, left behind in the wreckage of war, like the thousands of dogs sent to World War I trenches. In the mid-20th century, dogs were subjected to horrific testing in labs, used for experiments, many of which led to death. They were pushed to the brink with little regard for their emotional or physical well-being. Even today, we see such mistreatment in the shadows. The puppy mills that pump out endless litters, treating dogs as commodities, leaving them sick, scared, and alone. The overcrowded shelters where dogs are left to languish without hope of adoption. But amidst this darkness, one thing shines brighter than the rest: their ability to forgive. And that forgiveness isn't just a concept, it's a living, breathing reality. Time and time again, dogs have been subjected to cruelty, yet they still offer their hearts, because that's who they are. Despite the wounds we've inflicted, there have always been people who saw the truth, who recognized the nobility of dogs and made things right. Take the story of Max, an abused pit bull rescued from a dogfighting ring. Max had scars from the many fights he'd been forced into. His teeth were broken, his body was frail, but his spirit, it was unbreakable. Max was taken in by a family that had never owned a dog. They didn't know how to care for him, but they tried. They brought him to a veterinarian, enrolled him in obedience training, and slowly, Max began to trust again. A year later, Max's story became a beacon of hope for others. He became the face of a campaign to end dogfighting in his city. Max was no longer a fighter, he was a hero. But let me share with you another story, one that is both painful and beautiful. In a small coastal town, a man named Hugo had a German shepherd named Sasha. They were inseparable, but as time went on, Hugo became consumed by his work, an addiction that slowly took over his life. He began to neglect Sasha. He left her tied to a post in the yard for days. He stopped taking her for walks. He yelled at her when she barked. One day, Sasha disappeared. Hugo never bothered to look for her. Months passed, then years. Then one cold, rainy evening, Hugo received a call from an animal shelter. They had found a dog that was limping and starved, looking exactly like Sasha. He rushed to the shelter. When he saw her, his heart sank. Sasha's fur was matted and thin. Her eyes were tired, but they still held that old loyalty. Hugo was flooded with guilt. But Sasha? She wagged her tail. She didn't remember the neglect. She remembered the love. Hugo took Sasha home that day. It was too late to undo the damage he'd done. But the one thing Sasha never stopped doing? Loving him. Sometimes the ones we hurt the most are the ones who still love us when we're at our lowest. Dogs are not just survivors of our mistakes, they are healers. They help us grow, rebuild, and become better versions of ourselves. In prisons across the world, inmates are learning how to care for dogs. These dogs, many of them rescued from shelters, teach inmates the meaning of patience, responsibility, and unconditional love. For many, these dogs become their only true friends, companions who ask for nothing but give everything in return. Dogs have helped children overcome severe trauma. They've calmed the anxiety of those with PTSD. They've lifted the spirits of the elderly in nursing homes, reminding them of the joy that still exists in the world. We've never fully understood how dogs heal us, but we do know this: they save us, time and time again. In the end, dogs remind us of the most basic truth about humanity, that no matter how much we mess up, how much we fall short, love is always the answer. The bond between humans and dogs isn't just something we created, it's something we were meant to share. We can never repay them for the loyalty they've given us, but we can learn from them. We can learn to forgive. We can learn to be more kind, more present, more loving, because dogs don't just show us how to love, they show us how to live. As we look back at the history of dogs and humans, we see a tale not just of survival and loyalty, but of healing, of a species that has given everything to stand beside us, despite the darkest chapters in history. From the first moment a human looked into the eyes of a wolf and didn't see a predator, but a companion, to the arms that sleep at our feet today, bringing comfort, joy, and companionship. Dogs didn't just become our best friends, they earned it step by step. And in return, we learned the most important lessons of all: to love without condition, to forgive without hesitation, and to never take for granted the gifts of those who give everything for us. They are more than pets, they are the soul of our humanity, the proof that love can transform everything. And maybe, just maybe, we became the friends they needed all along. This is the story of how dogs became man's best friend, and why they will always be our most loyal, enduring companions. If this video moved you or changed how you see dogs, give it a like, subscribe, and share. It might touch someone else too.